Welcome to Tapped In. My name is David Figueroa-Martinez of DFM Coaching, and today we're discussing revisiting your game with more experienced eyes or self. Either one of those will work. So for the longest time, I was doing a lot of mounted arm bars, and I know that seems to be a theme lately. And I did it for like 4 months, and then I got away from it, and I started working on other things, and I recently came back to it. This has happened with large portions of my game. Kimura trap, for example, was something that I learned early on. It was my favorite submission and process and system. And then I got away from it. I did a lot of butterfly is still there, but I did a lot of traditional X guard, for example, off of the butterfly. And I did a lot of that and I got away from it, and I've periodically gone back. So what I've noticed and what has been really fun for me as I've gotten older is understanding things from a more experienced and wiser eye, a better version of myself. I don't have an instructor that I can go to and like a dedicated instructor that I could go to and pick their brain. I'm at a level where sometimes that is not feasible. I just don't have that mentor. So oftentimes I have to do the work for myself. But I do have peers at black belt level, instructors at the three gyms that I teach at, where I can go to them if I have questions, or they'll feed me something. Hey, I noticed you're doing this. Have you ever thought about such and such? So it's a blessing in that sense. And I'm super thankful for that. But I have really taken to reviewing my game and reviewing things through a more experienced eye. That has been really fun for me. And I understand some of you are at white and blue belt levels. Bear with me, but keep this in mind as you get more experience, because you're going to do it at different stages at different times. It just doesn't have to happen when you get to brown and black belt. Just keep this in mind. Specifically blue belts, when you get to purple, you're going to start deleting a bunch of shit. You start tossing stuff aside and you become more specialized. And in that process, you're probably going to revisit things that you had already learned. You're going to revisit things that maybe you picked up at one point during your blue belt phase where you were just kind of hoarding techniques, and you're going to view them differently and apply more experienced approaches to it that you didn't have when you really learned a technique. So there's a huge benefit in repetition with wisdom. I remember, and I think I've told this story. Knee cut was my shit at one point. It still is, but it was my first pass that I learned. And apparently I had done it wrong all the way up to brown belt. My instructor walked by. He gave me like one half sentence, put my foot here. And I didn't realize that I was putting my foot in the wrong spot and that I was susceptible to being off balance, but maybe people just hadn't off balanced me. And he explained why, and he walked away. I was like, oh shit. So that's kind of what I mean. Every technique you learn, you understand it at the level that you are currently learning it at. That level is going to change with time. How I do a knee cut at blue belt was different than how I do a knee cut at brown and black. How I pass when I was a purple belt, brown belt is vastly different now than how I was passing before. And a couple of things are partly to do with this. One, I've been able to learn certain techniques from certain people that maybe I didn't have access to. As I've gotten older, I'm approaching that lazy man stage. And I don't mean that derogatorily, but it's that stage where I want to do the least amount of work as possible with the least amount of athleticism and strength as possible. I want to be able to defend positions and mount attacks with you possibly even knowing they're coming and not being able to stop them without having to overexert myself. And my mind, in looking at my techniques now, is shaving off rough parts that maybe I mask with strength or I mask with athleticism. I'm shaving all that off. So now when I'm reviewing the things that I'm doing, they're they're being more intentful, and they're being more technical. And I've been a technical practitioner for a while, like most of my career, but even more so now. I revisit positions and I'm like, I could just do this. It's not flashy. It's not sexy per se, but it gets the move done, and I don't have to move as much. I don't have to do as many steps. Like passing right now, I used to like pass in a very technical step-by-step manner. I taught that way as well. Now, thanks to Josh McKinney, I'm passing chest over chest, and I'm letting them do the work. And when they get tired, I pass. But I wasn't doing that at one point. Again, I didn't have the access to that instructor, so I didn't know that was a possibility. But now it feeds right into my more matured approach of trying to do as least as possible for the same outcome. So there's a huge benefit of being like that concept of seeing it, but not relearning it. You're seeing the technique and you're applying more seasoned eyes to it. When I pass, for example, like I mentioned before, I go chest over chest. If you don't know the concept, I have an episode and I have something in the school program that you can look at. And literally it's me. I cut an angle, I approach, I force you to frame, and I use my body weight to make you work. I used to really knee cut. I used to really work hard to apply a lot of pressure and cut the angles and all this other shit. Now I'm using body weight. I get a grip, but it's not super tense. I get a grip just to anchor myself, and I make you have to work. And then there's a process before that I've really started to enjoy, where it's when I approach your guard, I'm not trying to flatten you out. I'm not trying to cut a deep angle. I'm not trying to pass right away. I stand over you, a slight angle, and I just make sure your feet don't go on, or the soles of your feet never go on me. And when they do, I got to get them off real quick. So I'll play that game and force you to continue to work. It's easy for me to swat at your feet. It's easy for me to press your shins down and create a slight angle and push you one way and make you work the other way. And then after a few minutes of this, effort starts to die down. Now I apply my body weight with chest over chest, and then you're even more tired. And then I sort of melt into position. I pass. I would not have seen that a couple years ago. And now looking at passing and looking at all my techniques, I'm viewing them from a more, again, mature standpoint, where I just want to see, how do I do this technique with the least amount of steps? Every step is a little window for escape or a response from my opponent. So if I can do this with the least amount of steps in the most basic way possible, fundamental way possible, nothing sexy, nothing over the top, I get happy. That was not always the case. And I want to be really economical. I'm getting older. I'm 44 now. And if you are older, but maybe you're white and blue belt, this is gonna be big for you. Like, you want to be as economical as possible. When you're super tense, you're burning energy. Look at your game. How many times do you grab a gi or a position and you squeeze and you can feel your arms starting to die? I don't have that. I've gotten to a point where I have a firm but relaxed grip on everything I do. I have a firm grip when I control your head and arm from top to side, but my body weight's making most of the contact and most of the work, gravity. So I can conserve all my energy, or as much as possible. If you push the pace, it changes things a little bit, but I'm not exhausted most rounds. I'm even when we do this thing for people's birthdays, and I'll do it with them. 8 minutes in the middle, Shark Tank. I'm not exhausted by the end of the Shark Tank most of the time. Every once in a while, they'll push me and they'll try to punish me. But it's a relaxed, firm approach where I flow with what's going on. Anytime you're tense, you're just burning up energy. So you want to be basic. You want to be, as much as we look at fundamentals as almost like, ugh, who wants to do that? I guarantee you everyone relies on it the older they get. You can be you can do all the fancy, slick, berimbolo and all the super athletic stuff. By all means, do it. By the time you're 35, 40, 45, you're going to start relying on the fundamentals. And your game is going to change. It's going to be more simple. And you're going to take a whole lot of pride in it. Might as well start doing it now. In this process, I found that I am reclaiming old abandoned positions. And again, I get it. This comes with time because I've been in 14 years and I'm a black belt, that I have time to revisit some of these other things. And when you're in the trenches as a white belt, you don't have, in a blue belt, you don't have a ton of abandoned things, but you don't have that time either, that luxury. You're just trying to survive. I get to reclaim those old half-done projects. At some point, I'm going to get back to footlocks. They don't excite me like they excite other people. But I'm going to do them at some point. One of the things that I want to reclaim is more stand-up. I started reclaiming bottom half guard. I started reclaiming butterfly half. I started reclaiming mounted arm bar. I started reclaiming the tacking the back. Like, we go through these phases where we get really hip to something and we spend a ton of time in it. And then we get interested in something else. We push those to the side. And not that we don't use those skill sets. They're not a focal point. There was a point in time where I wasn't doing any Kimuras. And that was my thing. And it still is my thing. It's my number one submission. But I kind of moved away from it. I started working on these other things. And then you pick it up again. And every time you pick it up, it's a different version of you picking that technique back up, that you're going to view it differently. Even with all the cool details and the cemented details that you have in your arsenal with that technique, you're going to pick it up again and you're going to see new details. It's like seeing art for the second and third time. You see the paint strokes a certain way. And then you see the intent behind the way the artist made the paint kind of shift or meld with this color a certain way. And because you have more experience, you see why that means something. When you're newer, it's broad. When you get that experience, you start seeing all the intricate details that you missed previously. I'm hoping this helps and shed some light on this and what I've been doing lately. If you have any questions on this, maybe I missed something. Maybe I didn't explain something the right way. That's fine. Hit me up, dfm.2099 on Instagram and Threads. I'm always available to answer questions. I also have a free school program, DFM Coaching, BJJ. You can check out the link in the show notes, or you can do a search. Until next time, thank you so much.